So we're going to have Kobi on because Kobi is the one that asked Cori Bush the tough questions, didn't shy down. There were other journalists there that didn't ask any tough questions. So I want to talk to him about that. So we're going to have him come on to talk about the Cori Bush and all of that, because I agree with you and everybody else. It was an absolute photo op. She never promoted the event. Then she shows up. She's the only one. And then she gets asked the hard question, leaves. And of course, there's the other side arguing how, well, you wanted them to show up, and when they show up, it's not good enough. It's like, no, it's not. It's like, why are you sending one person that hadn't promoted it at all? And you know, that's the issue I have. Like, why can't you be vocal about something? If you're not vocal about something, to me, that means you're afraid of something, or that you don't want to get some backlash. And depending on the situation, I can understand it. But when you're a politician, you're a public servant. We put you in there to serve the public. We don't put you in there to be nice. And at this point right now, being nice isn't where we're at. We're here to be nuclear to people, because some people said, "Oh, we don't need nuclear." They were criticizing Jimmy Dore's speech. They were criticizing my speech. Oh, we don't need nuclear right now. No, we need nuclear. That's exactly what we fucking need. We need to go and make these politicians uncomfortable. We've been saying that for like over 2 years on the show. That the only way is to make these people uncomfortable. And if you have a problem with making politicians uncomfortable, you're going to have a problem with the future movements that are going to be on the ground. That's their very, very demand right now, is to go and do that. And I know that, you know, I'm not a huge fan of MPP, but at least Jim Keedy and others are going to AOC's office to demand, to make certain demands out of her, because she's not fulfilling her purpose. And that's where we're at right now. I don't really care who you are, if I like you or if I don't. If you're out there doing direct actions, more power to you. Real direct actions that make politicians uncomfortable.
Okay, fam, I sent you the link. I'm just going to go over his tweets real quick while you send him that link. All right, so I saw this today. I was like, oh, wow. The man who asked Cori Bush about forced to vote, recount of what happened. How dare us plebs ask about not endorsing Pelosi as speaker so a concession could be made, like bringing Medicare for all to the floor. So here's Kobi, and look at his fucking shirt. Anyways,
I saw that.
An explanation of what happened at Medicare for March for Medicare for All in D.C. when I tried to interview Cori Bush. So listen to this. This is pretty crazy. 12,000.
Okay, so I was going to wait till tomorrow morning to do this, but I just want to get it out of my head right now, you know, while it's still fresh, while the sunburn's still fresh on my face, you know. So I met Cori Bush. Representative Cori Bush made a surprise appearance at the March for Medicare for All rally in Lincoln Park in Washington, D.C. today. And so, you know, noticing Cori Bush, I walk over to her and I ask, can I interview you? You know, can I just ask you 2 questions on camera, just real quick? You know, her and her security guard look at each other. They're kind of suspicious of me. They're like, you know, who are you with? And I say, I'm totally independent. I'm just doing this for myself. You know, I just do this alone. And then I was like, here, I'll even tell you the questions before I start filming so that you can decide whether you want to do this or not. And so I said the first question is, why are you here today? You know, why did you show up to the March for Medicare for All? The second question was, how would you respond to your force the vote critics who think that elected progressives should use their leverage as a block? And Cori responds, I'll answer the first question for you. I support Medicare for All because, you know, a good answer on why you would support Medicare for All. But then when it came to the second question, I asked again, you know, why can't you answer the second question? Oh, it's just manufactured division. You know, it's not really a problem. You know, we're not that divided at all. That's just manufactured, you know. Basically just brushing it off as if nobody has a reasonable concern. Like, as if force to vote wasn't even a real thing. And so, while she's walking away, I say, that was a very politician-y answer of you to give. Because it was like, what the fuck? She totally just dodged it. You know, all of these people showed up this day. Plenty of them, you'll see in the interviews I post, plenty of them were supporters of forcing the vote on Medicare for All. And for Cori Bush to just disrespectfully say that it's a manufactured division and that it's not worthy of her to respond to, I mean, I was furious. So, but, you know, it's over. She walks away. She's still here at the rally today. Okay.
Okay. There's a second one. Yeah, well, he's coming on shortly.
Cool. What's the second one? I didn't see it.
So then, I'm filming the. She's still here at the rally today. Okay, we're happy. So then, I'm filming the event, people giving their speeches and whatnot, and Savage Joy was giving a really good speech about Force the Vote and why it was so personal to her because of her own personal history, you know, her medical history and whatnot. And so I felt this feeling jumping out of my chest of, I need to say something because Cori Bush is here, and I know she's going to get credit for looking good, for showing up to this event surprisingly. You know, wow, so awesome that she showed up. But then, you know, you just have somebody like Savage Joy up here giving a heartfelt explanation about how Force the Vote made her feel. And I was like, no, Cori Bush is not about to get away with what she said to me, you know, and nobody else knowing that she said that to me. And I was so pissed that I didn't film Cori Bush right away. I was being respectful when I walked up to Cori Bush. I didn't have the phone in her face filming right away. No, I even let her vet the questions ahead of time. I didn't even start filming right away. I should have been filming, so I have proof that she said these things. But, so, Savage Joy is giving this speech, and it's really touching and really inspiring to me. So finally, I shout out, go look over there, you know, there's Cori Bush over there. She, you know, is against Force the Vote. She said that it's a manufactured division and that it's not a real divide. But, you know, so she was basically, I called out Cori Bush in front of everybody, trying to point out, you know, she's invalidating you, Savage Joy. You know, Cori Bush is here, and that's great. We're so happy that she's there in solidarity. But how can you, on one hand, be there in solidarity, but then on the other hand, the people you're there in solidarity with, you won't even give us a straight answer on working together as a bloc to leverage against the establishment? You know, and that's a lot of people there want that answer. That's why I asked Cori Bush that question directly. And it's just like, you know, and after I called her out in front of everybody, you know, Cori Bush just kind of walks away.
Yeah.
All right, Kobi.
Yeah.
You here?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
You learned a valuable lesson in citizen journalist. As a citizen journalist.
What lesson is that I learned?
Don't let them vet the question. Just get the microphone and ask them.
Oh, no.
I did that to Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
I could film.
Yeah.
I should have just been filming right away.
Yes. We did that because I thought I was going to be respectful to Debbie Wasserman Schultz and maybe get a couple questions, and I never got the chance. And I'll never forgive myself.
That's
for
a
that.
way worse person to want to be nice to on a question.
But I fucked up. Because I should have said, hey, man, what do you stand on Venezuela? What's going on? You believe, you know what I'm saying? Or what's going on? Well, how come you never debated your opponent this time around? Or whatever the case may be. Instead, I was like, hi, Debbie. And I kind of laughed because Fam had just been saying, look at her
ramen noodle hair.
Ramen noodle hair.
I was in the car, and he was like outside. She came up to the car, and she was like, and that was the whole thing. It was crazy.
But despite that, great work, great shirt.
Yes, great shirt you had on.
not planning on having anything so eventful happen at this march.
Yeah,
I was kind of just like walking around interviewing random people about, you know, why they're there, how they feel about Force the Vote, and then I look over and I ask somebody, I'm like, is that Cori Bush over there? And they're like, yeah, that's Cori Bush. And I'm like, I'm gonna go try to interview her real quick before I interview you. Like, I'll be right back. And so then I walk over to her and I ask, you know, hey, can I interview you? And her, the person she's with, I found out was her like chief of staff, I think. Mm-hmm. They just look at each other and they look at me and they like, you know, are very suspicious. I'm like, don't worry.
Of your anti-imperialist shirt?
Yeah.
The anti-imperialist shirt, the don't extradite Assange button.
Yeah.
But so they're like, who are you with? And I'm like, totally independent. Like, I just post this on Twitter myself. They're like, they just had an awkward silence for a few seconds. I'm like, wait, I'll even tell you the questions. You know what I mean? To make you even more comfortable that you can trust me, you know. And then, you know, I explain, why are you here today? That's the first question. And then, how would you respond to Force the Vote critics who think that elected progressives should work together as a bloc to leverage against the establishment? And then her immediate response was, well, we'll answer the first question.
I know.
And I'm like, you know, why not the second one? And that was when she got into, oh, well, you know, there's more that unites us than divides us. It's kind of a made-up thing, just an internet thing. Nobody really cares about it. I'm like, whoa, like, tons of people here, like, you know, Movement for a People's Party. There's Green Party people here, like, people who want to see progressives work as a bloc, whether it's inside or outside of the Democratic Party. They want progressives to oppose the establishment. And I was so angry I didn't get it on tape. But, you know, I walked away. I was like, whatever, I'll post about it when I get home from the march. You know, it's just a story, I guess. But then when, you know, before Savage Joy was giving her speech, there's actually this guy on the stage. I can't remember his name for the life of me. I have the video on my Twitter. But he was giving a speech about, you know, it's time we stop asking nicely. You know, we need to make politicians work for us, and we need to stop asking and demand it. And so I hear this speech, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm really upset about what Cori Bush did. And then I hear Savage Joy go, okay, I'm going to talk about force the vote now, why it's so personal to me. And I'm like, oh. And I know that everybody's over there hyping up Cori Bush right now because she's here, and those people don't know that she feels that way about our opinion of, you know, wanting more opposition to the Democratic Party establishment. And so then finally I'm like, well, I guess, you know, this is the only time this entire rally that anybody's going to talk about force the vote on the stage. So I guess I need to do it now. And I just kind of shouted out, you know, Cori Bush is here, and she said that it's manufactured division and that not that many people really, you know, care about it. And then rather than, you know, getting on the stage, setting the record straight, having a dialogue about it, I mean, she stayed. I'm not going to act like she like just walked away and immediately left the event. But she did walk towards the back of the event and kind of just hovered for a little bit back there and then walked away. I don't know if you have seen anything on Twitter today.
Yeah, I saw. We just played your video. So your whole explanation video.
I'm saying she still hasn't responded to it though yet. Has
no.
She's not gonna respond.
No, she's not gonna respond to it. I wanted to ask you because you also got attacked by other people. You were attacked by Status Quo. I was gonna say Status Quo.
Surprisingly,
Status Quo.
I was right next to Jen at the event. I was literally like 2 people next to her filming the event right next to her. I was so surprised when I just saw that she posted a clown emoji to my tweet this morning, and I was like, whoa, like, what? I was surprised because I mean, I don't know. I've liked Status Quo since 2016. I remember Jordan Sheraton, you know, confronting Donna Brazile about the whole Russiagate narrative to cover up the DNC leaks in 2016. And so, you know, I was happy though. Jen apologized. I wasn't necessarily happy with their stance on what I did or, you know, them thinking. I was so confused because what did Jordan say? He said that he doesn't think bird dogging is bad. You know, he agrees with bird dogging, but he thinks there's a difference between bird dogging and the venom that I spit at Cori Bush.
Okay.
What? Wait.
Go
venom?
ahead.
Could you do that in slow motion so my brain can grasp it?
Yeah, if you look at the Twitter exchange we had, he said, I agree with you, bird dogging. Bird dogging is not the problem. The problem is how you did it, the confrontational way that you did it.
Okay, people are dying.
I didn't cuss at her. I didn't, you know, I thought I was pretty tame and calm in the way I did it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You went above and beyond. You gave her the questions beforehand. So she could even come up with I would have come up with a bullshit answer. I would have been like, you know what? I would have liked to got on the force to vote thing, but I was new to Congress and I didn't know how the other members felt, and I was just trying to feel myself out. So if that's revisited again, maybe I'll be able to jump on this whole thing that we can force a vote because I am for Medicare for all. I would have given the bullshit answer, but she couldn't even do that. And the fact that you gave her the questions first.
It's like they don't even seem like they still want to form any sort of block. You know?
Yeah.
There's no discussion. She said on CNN when she was asked that question, Cori Bush said, you know, we vote alone. And the reason I wanted to ask the question, I mean, because some people on Twitter are criticizing me saying, you know, maybe you shouldn't have said the word force the vote. Maybe you should have kept it more general and kept that buzzword out of it. And it's like, well, I disagree with them on that. The reason I connect it is because, okay, so force the vote is this tactic that we had this big split on in the left.
Yeah.
And who sits on each side of this split? You know, the people who are anti-force the vote are the ones who are typically more vote blue no matter who, work within the Democratic Party indefinitely.
Right.
And the people who support force the vote are much more so, you know, Movement for a People's Party, Green Party, PSL, you know, third parties or independents who are fed up with the Democratic Party. And so I wanted to ask the question about force the vote because it naturally connects to that other question of, well, if you're not going to form a bloc within the Democratic Party,
right,
how are you going to respond to your critics outside of the Democratic Party who don't think this strategy is working?
Right.
Great questions.
And for me, it's like, look, like you're a concerned citizen here. and you're asking the right questions that any other concerned citizen would. And the fact is, this is a Medicare for All march, a direct action to push Medicare for All at a federal level, because we've failed at pushing it legislatively. We've been waiting years and years and years. When Nancy Pelosi was younger, she was talking about universal health care. And they've been dangling this carrot over and over again about universal health care, and nothing has been done. So to ask people to be polite to public servants who ran on the issue, because people always say, why not? Why don't you attack Joe Manchin? Why don't you go after Nancy Pelosi? I'm like, they didn't run on Medicare for All. They didn't wear the merch. They didn't wear a mask that says Medicare for All. I didn't donate my money to them. I donated my money to the squad to fight for things. And if they're not doing that, I'm going to go after them.
After Pelosi really hard, you know, that was like the whole thing about Force the Vote was like, I wouldn't have even supported Pelosi in the first place. It would have been a non-starter. It would have been immediately, I'm not supporting Pelosi for Speaker of the House. She had a 35%, 40% approval rating nationally. Medicare for All's got a 60% approval rating. Like, the numbers are on our side. But it's like, people shouldn't be so vitriolic with us for having this distrust. Because, you know, like you said, Pelosi used to support Medicare for All. Then slowly she eroded to the right over time. Hillary Clinton wrote Bernie Sanders a letter in the 90s thanking him for his hard work on single-payer health care. She also shifted to the right over time. AOC and the squad, you know, they used to support forcing the vote. And now, you know, we don't even see them pushing Joe Biden on the public option publicly, adamantly, you know, as viscerally as we want them to. So the fear is that eventually you're going to see AOC and the squad slowly shift right in the same way that we see Pelosi and Hillary Clinton did, and we'll not end up with, you know, universal health care for more than a decade. Yeah. Which is ridiculous. We're one of the only countries in the world to not have it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the funny thing, talking about elected officials. That's why, like, they said we're not talking about candidates running, maybe, who knows, whatever. But Dennis Kucinich, when this shit all went down with the Affordable Care Act, he was putting his foot down. He was trying to force them through his vote. He was withholding his vote to say, you're going to put the public option on this bill right over here, or I'm not voting it and you're not getting it through. And that's what we wanted these squad members to do. Put your foot down. Say, you're not getting shit unless you give us what we want. And they all of them ran on Medicare for All. Period. Plain and simple. So.
And so go ahead.
Go ahead,
I was
Kobi.
just going to say, it's so interesting how they move the goalposts on that force the vote thing, where the first thing is, well, you guys don't want Kevin McCarthy to win, right?
Yeah.
And then we debunk that. We proved that there's no way that could happen unless Democrats had supported him. And then it's kind of like, well, you know, you didn't have an alternative for Speaker of the House, so what's the point in delaying it? You just end up with somebody who's just as bad as Nancy Pelosi. And it's like, they don't realize that if we had blocked it, Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to not be Speaker of the House. You know what I mean? She's not going to let us just defeat her and have them put a different establishment Democrat in her place. Like, no, she'd probably fold because she knows it's not going to pass in a floor vote anyway. And then they'll just shift to the angle of, oh, well, look, it didn't pass, so now this is really bad for the Medicare movement. You know, look how naive they were to push it this way. They would have just gone to that angle. They would have given it to us, the floor vote on Medicare for All. Well, our whole point is it doesn't hurt the movement because, you know, we're in a global pandemic. Hundreds of thousands of Americans just died. You know, we have millions of people who are uninsured and underinsured. How could they have possibly spun it so that AOC and all of them pushing for Medicare for All were the bad people when Nancy Pelosi and them all are the ones standing in the way of it? You know, I think they would have lost that media moment. It would have pushed Medicare for All closer to happening.
Here's my question to you, Kobi. Given your experience right now with what happened with just merely asking a question and demanding an answer from a public servant that is a public servant that serves the people, and the negativity that's not only come from her, but from those defenders of the squad, the people who still believe that we need to be nice to politicians. Where are you at in terms of political strategy? Because from what I've seen from the Medicare for All marches, I think that has radicalized people. We had Misty on earlier, who was in Ohio, and, you know, I love to see the radicalization of people understanding that we cannot rely on politicians any longer. Where do you stand on that? Because you obviously know from Twitter where I stand, that I'm like, no, we can't rely on these people. They're not going to do it. We have to make them uncomfortable. We have to literally force them to do this. Where do you stand?
It's so interesting because I had been, so even though I voted Green in 2016, even though I've always kind of been in this independent, you know, on the edge of the inside-outside game, you could say, I was always the one who in the past, a few years ago, would have been saying, come on, you guys, like, AOC and them all must have some 3D chess, plan,
Yeah, right.
and that you guys are being too harsh on her. Like, she's just doing that to get them to listen to her more. And I remember saying that and believing it really genuinely and not understanding why people like you were probably being so adamantly against it. I probably even believed some of the people who thought that you were like, tearing them down because you just, you're outside. I believed some of those things, or I wasn't certain about it. I was confused about why are people being so adamantly against them. I don't understand. And then it was kind of around the time last year, the warning signs kind of showed up when AOC couldn't decide between Bernie and Elizabeth Warren. And I've had red flags about Warren since 2016. And then after the election, when, now it's time to push Biden left. Everybody voted for Biden. I didn't, but, now it's time to push him left. All the people who said, we'll push him left after the election. Then the bad faith actors comment from AOC surfaces. Then, the exceeding expectations comments. And then the whole media just running with that and portraying it as if all of the left thinks that Biden is the next FDR or something. And then, Force the Vote. And it's so ironic because Force the Vote really was the turning point for me in moving from this, believing the squad to kind of wanting to pressure them more. Because it was like, at first, I was like, I agree with Jimmy Dore, but, I kind of understand why people think he's being a little too harsh with people, like with Anna. Maybe he should have been a little nicer about it just so they'd, hear him out. But then over time, I was like, but wait. I agree with Jimmy Dore on the position that he's taking that we need to force the vote on this. The people who are criticizing him are the ones who are saying vote blue no matter who are now defending the politicians instead of pushing them left. And that's when I realized, last summer we were all talking about civility politics and how that's not as important as justice, and that riots and things like that are not a reason to be against the demands of the riots. And so I kind of made that connection of, even if Jimmy Dore can be a little bit of an asshole sometimes to some people, he's right in the things that he's saying, and he's trying to push these people left. And the ones who said they were going to help us are now being loyalists for politicians.
Team sports.
And I started to realize that I was probably that person 2 or 3 years ago, and that the person I am now, people like you were in my position maybe a few years ago. And so it's almost like, wow, I finally understand why all of you were so pants on fire about this. And so now I've made the full transition of just, I don't want to defend politicians, outright in a loyalist type of way at all. I just want to kind of have the opinion on the policies and focus entirely on the policies.
Yeah. You know something too? It's what really convinced us a lot earlier. It's the shirt you were wearing, right? Because we see how the squad was when it comes to foreign policy.
Yep.
Cori Bush, she probably saw your shirt and was like, I don't want to talk to this guy, because she had nothing about foreign policy on her webpage when she was running for office. Nothing. Didn't even talk about it, didn't even touch it, didn't even go near it. And yet she just stinks when it comes to foreign policy. So that gave us an indication. It's like, wait, at the end of the day, these people are for imperialism. They are not anti-imperialist. And they might act like they are, but they sure aren't when it comes to policy. They sure aren't when it comes to calling people out. And look at the person she replaced. That one person that she replaced, I forgot his name, but Max Blumenthal was in the halls of Congress, and he got that person to speak out about foreign policy and was going how bad it was. But then he quickly retracted to, well, I'm in charge of the budget committee. I don't even talk about this stuff. That's the person that she replaced. Somebody who started talking out against the American imperialist machine, and yet he's gone. You know what I'm saying? So that is the reason why for us that we quickly get there. If somebody's like anti-civil liberties, if they're an imperialist and they're not an anti-imperialist, but they try to act like they are, we know right away that's red flags that they're probably full of shit when it comes to Medicare for all, when it comes to protecting our civil liberties, when it comes to ending these wars. We understand that. So that's the reason why we got there quickly.
And Assange. And like
Assange.
the inability to speak to protect journalists and whistleblowers exposing Western war crimes, that's a really big red flag. And literally we have no friends in D.C. I mean, none of them are really there. There's issues with so many people, even Republicans who sometimes do it. They also play team sports. And so it's just kind of like, shit, like we need to stop relying on politicians. We really, really need more speeches from like Joy, from us, from you. We need you to call out the politicians because you're a citizen journalist. You have every right to demand more and answers from these politicians that we helped put into power. Yeah. That it's as basic and simple as that. Do not be shamed for it.
Oh, no, definitely not. You're so right about that connection of the Julian Assange case. And that was something that after the force vote thing really helped me kind of tie all this together, because it was like, I see people smearing you all on the internet as if you're some like secret right wingers or something. But then I hear you taking these like, free Julian Assange positions or these anti-imperialist positions on foreign policy that you don't see the people criticizing you take. Or, some of the people criticizing you think that the Julian Assange case is just one person. Why do you care so much? It's not that big of a deal. I don't understand why this matters. And as soon as I made that connection of, wow, these people really don't understand that he revealed war crimes and that, the UN is on his side, that, human rights organizations around the world are on his side. Even the Chinese government, said that the US is prosecuting a journalist here and attacking the free press. And it's just like, once I made that connection, I was kind of like, oh, no, I need to like really lean in and educate people on Julian Assange and anti-imperialism and connect these dots together because, I mean, that's the loose thread of AOC doesn't say anything about Julian Assange.
Yep.
Doesn't say anything about Julian Assange. Not a single elected progressive says anything about Julian Assange. Yeah. My representative, Jamie Rashkin, Our Revolution endorsed Jamie Rashkin. I was looking him up a week or two ago because I sent him some letters about Julian Assange. He's been co-sponsoring all sorts of bills about press freedom and independent journalists and, things that directly relate to the case of Julian Assange. But I remember a few years ago, he was really big on the Trump-Russia story and Russia interfering in our election story. And so I almost have this inclination that Jamie Rashkin is doing all these press freedom bills so he can cover his ass on not saying anything about Julian Assange because, he must have some idea in his head that Julian Assange is not really a journalist. I don't know. He's not responding to my letter. I have to call him. I have to go to his office and follow up. But the Julian Assange case really is that common thread that pulls together anti-imperialism and, the fact that the Democratic Party on domestic policy isn't far enough left. It's both. Yeah. And I think it makes it easier to teach people through Julian Assange. But, people hear the smears about him, the Trump-Russia thing in 2016, which has nothing to do with the charges or the accusations of rape in Sweden, the charges that got dropped that, again, are not relevant to this case anymore. But people don't like him personally for some reason, and that allows them to support him being persecuted in a way that sets a, precedent that dangers the international free press. I think people are really short-sighted on that issue.
Well, a lot of people feel that he put Donald Trump in office because he told the truth. But if the truth blows it up, then the truth blows it up. Johnny.
Kobi, brother, I just got to say, I woke up today and I was just so happy because, you see somebody who watches the Convo Couch has the balls to go and ask Cori Bush this. You know what I'm saying? This is what I'm fucking talking about. Fucking someone who's an anti-imperialist and is willing to walk the walk. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I do what I do. You know what I'm saying? So we can build a coalition of people like this. Yeah. And people have the courage to fucking ask these politicians questions because they're not above us. They serve us. They're supposed to serve us. So you asking that question, brother, I just give you all the props and thank
you so much. And it was like I said, it was so spontaneous. I felt so uncomfortable doing it. Like I knew that if I said something, everybody there was going to look at me. And now that post has like 100,000, impressions. And I'm just like, holy crap. I have people today smearing me as a racist because,
of course.
Cori Bush is a black woman and I'm a white man. Yeah. And it's just like, and then I look at who it is and I click on their profile. Oh, it's a Chantel Brown supporter, a neoliberal in Ohio who's smearing me in this way just because, identity politics, without any substance behind it. But it's just like, oh, it's so crazy because I just did what I thought we're supposed to do. We're supposed to bird dog politicians. We're supposed to, if they gaslight you and don't take a position on something that people are curious about, you kind of create a situation, you create, you antagonize to get a response. The same reason why you would do a civil disobedience or any other issue, is just to get eyeballs on the issue because she clearly dodged the question. She clearly doesn't want to answer the question for some reason. So now we have to make the question get answered.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I just gotta say, that uncomfortableness you felt, that's you leaving the comfort zone, brother. That's so fucking important that everybody needs to do. I want the audience to know when you feel that you got to take that extra step and push yourself to get through it because you can do it, and we all can do it. Is what I'm saying. So I just wanted to talk about that. I just want to mention that.
Yeah.
Once you do it once, it gets easier. Once you step out of your comfort zone one or two times, like I didn't even really post on Twitter that much. Like I've always been kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out of the online community since 2016. But like, it wasn't until like in the last year or so that I really started posting more. And then it was like people were like misunderstanding me, or people who I knew I agreed with for some reason don't think we're on the same team or something. So then I was like, oh crap, I need to like heavily lean into saying all of my opinions on the internet now, so at least everybody knows where I am.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that leads to me going to the Julian Assange protest in DC in April. And then that leads to me, you know, starting to post videos on Twitter about Julian Assange, which leads to me speaking at the event in front of the Department of Justice, which leads to me possibly starting a podcast, and now here and Bird Dog and Cori Bush. Like once you get a little courage, it kind of makes it easier to do it again in the future.
Yep.
Thank you for your courage, and thank you for doing this. Do not let these people shame you. You did a wonderful job. We need more of you out there doing the same exact thing. When we, you know, all of us can't be at every place at once, and we need journalists asking bold questions, asking questions that make politicians uncomfortable. So thank you for doing that. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for wearing the shirt. And thank you for your courage.
Brother, send me a picture of you in that shirt.
Yeah, we want a picture in the shirt.
I need a picture.
You want the picture of me in the answer?
You look good in that shirt, brother.
Yeah. And Kobi,
what?
One of the methods I like to use now and stuff, I'm getting really better at this, is the first question you ask is the setup question. You make them feel comfortable, like you're there. Hey, Cori, thank you for coming here today. Why'd you come? So now she starts answering the questions, whatever. You don't ask her. And then you come in with the sneaky bada. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
why are you getting forced to vote and stuff?
If I had been recording, I would have been able to do that.
Yes.
That's why I told her 2 questions, and the first question was, why are you here today?
Yeah.
And then the second question was the one that I really wanted to ask, which
Exactly.
was about the leveraging as a block. But my mistake was I shouldn't have asked for permission to film her. She's in a public space. I should have just been filming as soon as I walked up to her. Never making that mistake.
You're doing awesome.
Again.
And don't get too good, because Fiorella's gonna throw me off the couch and you're gonna replace me. So take it easy on me, pal.
Someday.
And thanks
guys.
again, brother, for all you did today. That was some great shit, brother.
Thank you so much for
Kobi.
your support. Solidarity, guys.
Go follow his Twitter. Solidarity, buddy.
Pro Peace 97.
We already have it up, brother. And that's Kobi. Man, what great work.
Yeah.
Citizen journalism at its best.
Yeah.
Citizen journalism at its best. We are all journalists.
And I know he's
here.
getting a lot of clapback and hate from all these, you know,
I got
squad
that.
sycophants. But guess what, guys? That means you're doing something, because if you're going to start siding with politicians over the people who are obviously dying and concerned, we're in a shitty economy right now. We haven't even experienced the housing crisis yet. Just wait. It's going to get worse. And the fact that he's asking the right questions, and I love seeing the progression of attending a Julian Assange event and then another event, and then just, you know, this is what we want. This is why we do what we do. Johnny's absolutely right. We want to radicalize people into action. This is why a lot of our friends who are in this do what they do.
Yeah.
I love it, fam.